Yo, what's poppin'? All my peeps, it is I, your host with the most Renaissance man who always thinks he can, and champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, back for another SmackDown breakdown, or should I say Snackdown breakdown, because we got a lot of fun things to talk about. Part of Pitts and Sara's wrestling show. Can't have Pitts and Sara's wrestling show without the best of the West. You can't forget about Sarah Marshall. Sarah, what's poppin', girl?
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Oh!
I had
give me a
to.
nice Barry
I had
Zito
to.
12-6 down the pipe there. Woo!
I had to. It felt necessary, you know?
No, it definitely did.
And I'm like even more hyped because we just watched their entrance. So I'm like, yeah.
Their entrance.
I'm like, yes, boy.
A lot better than NXT. I really have to say, like, it was a lot better than NXT.
They're gonna like block me on Twitter because I just keep tweeting, I'm obsessed with you, and like tagging them, and they're gonna be like, girl, you need to leave us alone.
No, they might think you're pretty awesome. Who knows?
Well, Kit already liked my tweet.
That's what I'm saying. So like they like to see that they're being loved, because apparently we'll get into it. I don't want to go ruin it all right now.
Yeah.
Because we do have a good SmackDown to break down, honestly. It was a really good show. Second one after the draft. Yep. The only thing I will say, and this goes with the Pretty Deadly stuff, it goes with the other things as well, wasn't a big fan of the crowd. I'm just going to get out there and say it. Yeah. When the tribal chief makes a comment about it, he's doing it because he saw something on the fly. He noticed it. Mm-hmm. And when you're being called out like that, like, that's tough.
Yeah. Well, and I have something to say about the crowd too, but I'm going to wait because it plays into something we're talking about. But usually when somebody says something about the crowd, it's either like because you're not doing your job or you're doing such a good job that they had to acknowledge it. Like there's no in between. They don't just mention you for no reason. So you would have thought that would have been kind of like the spark that the audience needed. But yeah, I think that's the thing though. There's just some crowds where you know that it's not going to be super loud. There's specific places, that are 99% of the time a great crowd. So we'll just have to remember South Carolina, or at least the University of South Carolina, is not one of those great spots, apparently.
Yeah, we're just not a hot crowd. And as someone who, being from Boston, I would say probably the top 5, arguably top 3 best crowds in wrestling. You're so not used to, that dead time or just silence.
Yeah.
I mean, when Sora and I went, honestly, probably one of the most electric crowds I've been a part of. Singing along, playing into all of the, we'll say in-ring promos. I didn't feel that connection with this crowd last night.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. I want to make sure that we say hello to everybody who's watching. But should we just jump straight in?
Let them invade the yard of streams.
All right, so let's talk about the bloodline. So I have to say I'm going to be complimentary of Mr. Roman Reigns showing up at 2 SmackDowns in a row because, and what I wanted to say about the crowd was, I think they need to take into consideration how the audience reacted. He's the one we heard Roman's music to start the show, and it was probably one of the louder moments of the night because people were actually excited that he was there. So the fact that that's happening, despite that he's supposed to be like the most hated guy on SmackDown, I feel like they need to take into consideration like, that people actually want to see him. Not to mention the recent controversy that they put him on the poster for a house show, sold tickets because of it. Then we're like, LOL, we're just kidding. It was a mistake. And then all these people are asking for refunds. Like, is that not a
that's pretty bad. No, I saw that report and I just went, wow, that's bad. Like I laughed, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they're getting refunds, but I feel like they kind of need to look at that and be like, maybe we shouldn't have him just go missing for weeks at a time, months at a
Well, he's on
time,
next
because
week.
yeah, and Saturday. But still,
That's
I
a
just thought that
lot of
was
work for him, Sarah.
so much.
That's so much.
So I just thought that was interesting. But anyway, so they did start and basically didn't really get to say anything. But that's how it is right now with the Bloodline and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They just keep interrupting each other. So basically that's just what happened. A lot of the same old that we've been seeing for months at this time at this point of like, oh, you ruined my life. No, you ruined my life. Oh my God, I hate you. Oh my God, I hate you too. I hate you more. Like, that's basically what was happening.
Yeah, like verbatim, it feels like. I don't even need to. Yeah,
And
you summed it well.
then what I thought was the most interesting, though, was because, of course, we still see Roman beefing with the Usos, which obviously that got amped up, and we'll get into that as it progressed throughout the night. But that's still happening. But the bump into Solo as he was leaving the ring, I was like, okay, things are getting interesting, because it was kind of a weird moment, because Solo clearly didn't appreciate it. But then Roman was kind of, I feel like he wasn't sure how to respond, because I think that, typical Roman would want to be like, what are you doing? Like, why would you not move out of my way? Don't you know who I am? But you could see that he like held his reaction back and then was like, okay, whatever. And just like
like a
walked out of the ring.
backstep.
Yeah.
And then like and
Yeah.
then
Like
just,
he was just like, okay, whatever. It's whatever. So
he's shaking up the entrance ramp.
I thought that was kind of nice, because we haven't seen any of this potential issue between Solo and Roman. So I was like, oh, okay, they're planting the seeds a little bit there. So I thought that was a cool moment.
They're planting the seeds for that inevitable breakup where you don't know who's gonna turn on who, but the point is that like they're really setting up a turn of some sorts at Night of Champions.
I know, and I was gonna say, so we were just talking last week, I think it was, about obviously it seems like the Usos are going to be the ones that get involved at Night of Champions, because Solo and Roman are in the match. So they're going to want to make sure that they do not get the tag team championships, not only because they don't want them to have them, but because they couldn't beat Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for them. So that seems still, I would say, the likeliest scenario. But after this Solo bump, I'm kind of like, is Solo going to do something? Because remember what we said, that it would be interesting if Roman is the one who gets pinned. So I wonder if Solo would try to make sure that happens, like if they're going to lose, or he tries to make sure they lose because maybe he's getting fed up. I even thought maybe I wouldn't say as soon as maybe next week, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Solo get fed up with Roman's treatment of his brothers. And that's kind of what leads that's what leads to him turning on him, because I mean I feel like one of the more intriguing aspects of all of this is that Solo doesn't talk. That's why I think it's that extra added layer that I think that we kind of overlook. And a lot of people often just kind of like don't pay attention to it. But I think that's going to become like a huge aspect of the impending implosion of the bloodline.
It's so fascinating because of that. He doesn't talk, and it's facial expressions. That's where the bloodline outdoes every other wrestling storyline right now, is the way they interact with each other.
The subtleties. Yeah.
The subtleties, the little details within every minute detail of a segment, match, backstage, whatever, you when the bloodline are on the screen, you need to be watching. For instance, a great example is when that match ends and the Usos will eventually, do their, and the way that they cut to Roman, Solo, and Paul, and how it closed out on them. What you could have 3 people in a room be watching all three of their reactions and have a different idea of what each one is thinking in the situation. Like, it's so intriguing and deep, and it's awesome. It's incredible.
And what I think is cool too, and I know I keep saying that, but I think it's nice to see a more normal storyline have this many layers and twists and turns and like interest from basically everybody, because for a while it, even with Bray Wyatt just coming back, it was like Bray Wyatt was the most intriguing and fascinating character in WWE. And in part of it was like, okay, well, he's working with a different writer. Like, this is a writer that wrote movies and stuff. So, like, of course he's going to have that. So it's kind of cool to be like, okay, we maybe need to give whoever are the main people working on the Bloodline storyline, maybe they deserve a little bit more credit, because usually, and there's, I'm going to talk about it today, I'm sure, we are usually coming for the writers and how bad they are and how they don't do this or do this well, or they just are whatever. This is an instance where I think that they actually deserve some credit for maintaining our interest for as long as they have and still putting out good stories, good moments. Like, this has been going on for a long time. Like, the Bloodline storyline, it's like 3 years.
Yeah.
And
it is captivating television, but yeah.
But I mean, when's the last time that is something you could say about WWE? Like, being captivating enough for you to care about the same story for 3 consecutive years. That's insane. Just thinking about that in and of itself, or even just if we want to even narrow it down to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, that's been at least since Royal Rumble. So, I mean, and that's just with Kevin Owens added in. So that's amazing. And I feel like, again, it's something that they don't get enough credit for.
And KO has been entwined with this throughout the entire, I would say, title reign. So the fact that he's still dealing with it adds that element of when they're talking in the ring. And he's just like, I'll use this empty bottle. But he's like this. He's going to talk. He's doing, and then he just says, you know what? And just flings it. I'm not going to do it because there's some liquid in there. But flings it. And it just drops the belt. Just like, all right, let's go. Like, that. He could have done the screaming and hooting and hollering all over again. But it's that subtle difference of, okay, it's another week of this. You have to act so annoyed. Like, you have to be so fed up that it's done. There's no more words. There's no more words that need to be said.
I loved Roman's reaction to that. He's like, oh, yeah, remember, fight Owens fight. Like, all you want to do is fight. I just thought that was so funny because it's like you don't get to see those kind of like little moments of Roman being a human and not, like a crazy dictator.
That's my favorite part of the Tribal Chief.
Well, and that's the thing too. I'm interested to see where he goes when this whole thing is over. Like, are we gonna just keep him as the bad guy? Which it's possible he could be the face of the company as the bad guy. It's like, which would be a nice change from John Cena being the over baby face of the company. It would be kind of cool to have the complete opposite. But anyway, so the Bloodline stuff continued throughout the entire night. So later on, we see Paul Heyman comes around and tries to smooth things over as the Usos are trying to get hyped for their match against the LWO later in the night. He talks to them, says everything is fine, everything is under control. Roman forgives the both of you, I know, but that he won't be ringside for your match. But everything's fine. But everything's fine.
Sorry, he had important business to take care of. So of course he can't.
Yeah, so he had to sit there and he had a spot reserved on the couch backstage.
Yes, that coach missed him dearly.
Yeah, apparently. So it just added more to the tension as the Usos were trying to prepare for a match against the LWO, which was Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. And side note for that, I'm still just so excited for Santos to be working with his childhood hero. Like, I know I say that like every single time we talk about them, but you can just see the pure joy that man has every time he gets to work with Rey. And I just think it's so cool to see, because how often does that happen in anyone's life?
No, it really doesn't. And the fact that Santos is finally, I will take it a little step bigger, is that I'm just happy he's getting a push like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, it's so nice to finally see the LWO become, I wouldn't, I'll say it, like they're going to be low-key a mainstay on SmackDown. Maybe give them a little tag team title run in the near future. And then, you have Santos, give him some sort of feud with Gunther at the least. Imagine the LWO versus Imperium
They're on separate shows.
for Survivor Series.
Okay, I was gonna say they're
War
on
Games.
separate shows.
That's what I meant the entire time, Sarah. Of course. That's what come on.
I think the biggest thing about this is, again, the fact that someone decided that Legado del Fantasma needed to become the LWO. It was just one of the best decisions that they ever made, because other than the fact that the members of the LWO were far too talented to not be able to showcase what they were capable of. I mean, everybody loves to watch luchador wrestling. I don't care what you say.
I don't care what anybody says.
You love it. There's, and so as the bad guys, they weren't able to showcase that, nor was it really able to be appreciated, because you're not supposed to. The big spots and the like breath catching moments are supposed to be by the baby faces, so they didn't get to do that. So on top of that, we talked about the LWO merchandise continues to completely slaughter everything else, and so it was like, okay, I see you, Triple H creative team, I see you. It was a good decision.
Oh, I donated my $30 easily.
Yeah. So back on track. So we had Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar versus the Usos. It was a good match. I mean, it was what it was. What it needed to be. It was. We did get the interference, of course, from Sami and KO, which I loved that Kevin just like came out and did nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Just stood there. It was awesome.
Yeah, and that's why he kept saying it at the end, like, what? I literally did nothing. I just stood here. And obviously Sami did more than that.
Stand, Owens, stand.
Yeah. Walk, Owens, walk. And so they helped the LWO get the win, which just, set Roman just into a very disappointed mindset, because, and what's forgot to mention earlier too, when he was ripping the Usos earlier in the show, that was actually kind of terrifying, because he was using like his real angry man voice. Like that was really good, because it wasn't the like, I'm not trying to yell at you. It was like, I'm actually pissed and I'm using my actual angry voice on you, that it felt real, and so we didn't see that again. We just saw Roman just shaking his head, stopping Solo. And the Usos are just on a downward spiral.
That whole thing with Roman wanting to say something, I really want to hear what he has to say, honestly. I mean, we don't get a lot of, I would say, promos like that are heartfelt and this is what I actually feel. It's all about, kind of like that mask of confidence in a way. Like, I am the tribal chief. It's all this,
Right.
I am this, that, whatever. We haven't got like how he feels about the whole Sami Zayn thing. Like, we've got it in outbursts, but you had a moment there where you could have had Sami and Roman go back and forth a little bit at least.
Yeah.
KO doesn't want to talk. Solo doesn't talk. So the floor is theirs.
Well, and we got a sneak peek of it a little bit when in the build up to Cody and Roman. Cody kind of brought out that more emotional side of Roman. Like, we can't forget, he was talking about Dusty, and you could tell Roman was very clearly getting a little bit emotional about it. That's a little touch on reality too. And then remember, he ended that not responding to Cody. He left. So it was like, that was a cool layer. So yeah, it would be cool if one of them could kind of bring that out in him. But I think we're going to see more of an angry Roman as the weeks go on, especially if they get involved in his match at Night of Champions.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they get involved.
Yeah. But I think that's exciting. It makes Night of Champions a little bit more intriguing, because, I think it's gotten a little bit better as the weeks went on. Because I honestly wasn't really like, oh.
You weren't at all.
I wasn't like super into it, but I'm more excited about it now for sure. So
now I have a little question to ask before we segue into the next topic.
Yes.
Thinking about this.
Yes.
So Night of Champions, we've said before it's supposed to be the pay-per-view where the champions defend their titles.
Yep.
what if they're trying for this year's like main event of it's the champions like main event, like all the titles are in this main event. You know what I mean? Like they're more playing off of the fact that it's 4 champions or past, like they're not playing into they're playing to more of like the bigger picture role, if that makes sense. What do you think?
I don't know what you mean at all.
All right, then never mind. Moving on.
Okay. Okay. Like I don't know what you
Never
mean.
mind. If you just don't get it, I
Okay.
maybe not am not explaining
You're just
it.
probably not conveying it right. Think about it and then just
Probably
let me
not.
know.
Yeah, we'll have to think that one out because we're still processing. So
So
what
I was
happened
gonna
next?
I'm just gonna get to the comments really quick because we have some people saying hello. We have David saying hello. We have Micah saying what's up, hello. Micah also says it looks like we're gonna get Solo versus Roman. I am so excited about it. And then he says they need to do something big with LA Knight. Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Don't you worry. We're gonna talk about my boy. Don't even worry about it. But first, we want to talk about how the women's tag team championships were unfortunately relinquished last night, which I was a little bit surprised about because we had read all the reports were saying that Liv wasn't seriously injured, so it must be that she actually is. They were also saying that Dakota Kai was injured, so it's just a hot mess in the women's tag division. People were like, are the women's tag team championships cursed?
Yep, I was gonna bring that
So
up.
Raquel and Liv had to relinquish their titles, and then they announced that they will have like a fatal 4-way basically for the championship. So it'll be Raquel and a partner, which we don't know who that is yet. We'll talk about that in a second, versus Damage Control versus Chelsea and Sonya versus Ronda and Shayna.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. We can just not talk about that. That's okay.
Yeah. So I was trying to think of who could be Raquel's partner because they said it wasn't happening for 2 more weeks. So that's going to be after Night of Champions. And then so I'm like, okay, so the one aspect of that is like, okay, so does Liv need to be out for 2 weeks? And so you're pushing it out and she's going to, but then also I was trying to think, I'm like, is there anyone that is yet to return or debut that could be like a surprise partner for Raquel? But I couldn't think of anybody.
Roxanne Perez is one of my guesses.
She didn't get called up though, did she?
We can pull it off. Oh no, that wouldn't make sense. Let me yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
So I'm trying to think. I'm like, I don't know because I mean, it doesn't have to be.
It's fucking Shotzi.
Oh my god, Micah
Tegan
says
Knox. That's a good one. Because it was Liv's former partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Liv comes back and say they win the titles, because we don't know how long Liv's gone, what you do is then you have Tegan, Raquel, and Liv all feud.
Yeah, but do we really believe that they're not going to have Ronda and Shayna win?
I thought we weren't talking about them, Sarah.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. So I'm interested to see who Raquel's partner ends up being. I feel really bad for Liv because, like, the highs of this past year, but the lowest of lows of this last year. Like, it's just nothing has worked in her favor other than that brief moment that she had last summer of winning Money in the Bank and being women's champion. Like, and then everything since then is downhill. And I feel bad because, like we talked about when she first became tag team champions with Raquel, she was like, don't abandon me. Like, don't turn on me. And then it ended up being that her body just failed
body
her.
Turned on her. Her body went heel.
Failed her. Yeah. So I was like, that sucks. But I'm wondering what they're going to do to like figure out who her partner is because I mean, unless it's some shocking return or surprise, I can't imagine that they wait until like the day of the match for us to figure it out. But I don't know.
Oh, I think we're getting a day of match.
Which, yeah, but like it has to be someone exciting, I feel like, because
that's what I mean.
Otherwise, no one's going to care. Like, no one's going to be like, if it's like, I don't mean this in a mean way, but like Tamina, you know what I mean? Like, no one's gonna be like, yeah, like no one's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like if you're gonna wait until the moment, then it has to be someone really exciting.
It's Natty.
Oh Jesus! No, she's on Raw. Remember, she's trying to go after.
I'm gonna figure this out.
You need to remember. That's why I'm here for you.
That's always here for me, girl. So the champ's always here for you too.
So then,
and we are always here for them. So
Stand and deliver.
I'm just, you guys.
Swooning. You are hardcore swooning.
I was so excited last night. First of all, I love that they got to like introduce themselves basically with the little cooking, the
All
cooking.
right. So it is a cup of charisma, a
Mm-hmm.
tablespoon of unequivocated tag team ingenuity,
Mm-hmm.
and then a dash of handsome.
A dash of good looks.
Good looks. That's tomato
Yes.
potato.
And a little
What?
sprinkle of Kit Wilson and Elton Prince.
There you go. Yeah. And together.
I'm just obsessed. I'm obsessed. So they got a new entrance song. Love it. It's just great. I liked their old one, but this one, yeah, it just feels like an elevated version of their one from NXT. Feels more of like a main event or main roster song. You know what I mean?
Definitely a main roster song.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more uppity with who they are. They, play into their flamboyancy and all that.
Yeah.
But they're still like they can still hold a fight. Very, you know what it reminds me of? Zoolander. What's the character? Owen Wilson's character.
I don't know.
All right,
Never
well,
seen
whatever.
it, so I don't know.
Like that type of vibe, but like they can fight.
Yeah. So I was really happy that they got their full entrance. I loved that. I did not appreciate that they barely got any reaction like throughout the entire time. Of course, I wasn't surprised that they got nothing when they came out because we've mentioned how a lot of the NXT audience doesn't watch like Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and vice versa. It's not there's not a cross pollination there, so a lot of the people there were not familiar with Pretty Deadly, which I find funny because people are like, "Who are these new guys?" I'm like, they're not new, but like it's embarrassing for you to even be saying that, but that's okay. So I did think that they had a great match, and we knew they were going to have a great match because of the familiarity with the Brawling Brutes. I did cringe a couple times because I tried not to hold it against Ridge, but like he just makes me nervous when I watch him, and he was a little sloppy last night, and I'm just like, okay, brother, Elton and Kit aren't very big men, so please be careful. And then I even told you that.
Careful.
Yeah, please be careful with my voice.
My boys.
And yeah, so they had a great match. I loved the trickery that they used. I felt like that was like the best thing that they could have possibly done in their debut match on SmackDown, to use something like that, because it just completely set up and let people know who they are. So I loved that. And I think they were able to have such a good match and impress people who didn't know who they were, who were not familiar with them. So they were like, no, like you might question their gimmick. You might not understand it. You might not like it, but you can't say they can't hang in the ring. So
no, the way they tell a story in the ring is so well done. I mean, they just get all the little nuances of selling and then taking the move, and even doing their double teams are fantastic. They're so entertaining to watch. They're so entertaining to watch, and the fact they got the win, they got the pin. I don't care how they did it. It was perfect because that's how they should be winning.
Yes, boy! Yes, boy! Yes, boy! Yes, boy! Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
I was just very excited. So the only thing that continues to disappoint me is the comments on social media, but I have decided that it is just like, as long as I can keep my mental health in check, I have made it my mission to shoot people down and, be the person that ends the annoying reactions to them, because it's just so ridiculous. Because, some people were like, it's just funny because a lot of these people are people who will tell you that Shawn Michaels is their favorite all time, and I'll be like, oh, okay, you have something to say about Pretty Deadly, but you loved 90s Shawn. Okay. You loved 90s Shawn and the leather chaps and the chains and the dancing. You loved that, right?
What do you mean? In Playgirl?
Yeah, you loved that. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, so I just, one thing I was saying to people, I said to somebody online, and I kind of said this last week. I was like, you do realize that these grown men that are saying these negative things about Pretty Deadly, you are a grown man watching half naked men in spandex fake fight. And you have the audacity to say anything about Pretty Deadly, please.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Dude, touch grass.
Yeah.
Touch grass.
Yeah. So then we had Asuka versus Zelina Vega, which I kind of felt bad for Zelina because she was basically just used in this match to make Asuka look tough, which, I'm glad she was used, but it was just kind of like, why does she have to, like, it wasn't a squash, but it like kind of was a squash, but it is what it is, I guess. And as the match ended, because clearly Zelina couldn't even tap out given the
no way she was like, yes, I give up, come on.
Come on. I was like hurting, like just looking, because my shoulders pop out of socket so easily, and I was like, girl, you could not do that to me. I would be like writhing in real pain because my shoulders would be just like floating off my body if that were me. And I was like, ouch.
Ow.
So yeah, Bianca comes out to relieve Zelina from that terrible circumstance that she was put in, and she did get hit a little bit with the mist, which I can't imagine that has to be so disgusting. So
I can't. It's so gross.
I know. I'm not against Asuka and Bianca kind of like continuing what they had going on at WrestleMania, especially because it wasn't a great build up to Mania, and then it just abruptly ended because then Asuka was gone. So I'm not against it, but they haven't done anything to elevate it or to make it more interesting. It's very much the same things that we saw in the build up to Mania. So I'm like, there needs to be something added here, because why should I be invested in this? Why should I be looking forward to this? I that's why I said I felt like it's not a thrilling story to me right now.
Yeah, it's, to me, all I'm getting out of this is, when is Bianca dropping this title? She just became the longest reigning champion of the modern era. If you're waiting for her to get that title, fine, and do it at Night of Champions, because then you will at least get one person defeating a champion and becoming a new champion.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just over it too. I would just want to see Asuka be champion and have banger feuds with different women.
Charlotte.
I mean, Asuka Charlotte would slap. You gotta think of the division.
Asuka Bailey, that could happen.
Asuka Io Sky.
Yeah.
That should be a main event. Yeah. That should main event something.
Don't even. That's like a fantasy match now. That's like, that would be so
Put it on
good.
the list.
Yeah. Let's see, what are people saying? Okay, so Micah, why did they take the tag titles off of Liv and Raquel, but when Lita got injured they took Trish Stratus? I don't know. I think it's just a way to, well, first of all, I would assume that Liv is more injured than what we first thought.
Liv's
yeah, and I think it was easy for them to then write Trish into it because she was involved in the storyline already. So it was a way to get Becky into a feud with Trish. So I think that was basically the only thing. David says Natty's on Raw, but technically Liv and Raquel were drafted to Raw, so Sarah, it could be. But like, whatever. Mike is mad at me because I said fake. But mind you,
get the F out. All right.
I'm just saying it because of
that was a hell of a callback for any of our old wrestling fans here.
Yeah, they're just being homophobic and ridiculous. That's why I say, like, if you really want to break down what you're watching, then that's what it is. And also, Bernard is here. What is up, Bernard? He is my newest TikTok friend.
Bernard.
He liked my take on the Usos and Solo turning on Roman and Paul Heyman possibly being a part of it. He saw that and he said that he was feeling the same way. So I was like, great minds think alike. So we were chatting.
Mark.
Yeah, it was cool. So moving on, then we have the NXT call-ups. They are definitely taking over SmackDown, and I am here for it.
The
I am
Grayson Waller effect, baby.
Oh my god,
That was my favorite one of the whole night. Yeah,
I
two of my
loved it.
favorites in it. It was awesome.
I'm not obsessed with him because I would say I'm obsessed with Pretty Deadly. I'm not obsessed with Grayson Waller, but I am here for Grayson Waller. Like, he is just so good. I can't. Like, I don't know about his in-ring ability. I'm not super familiar with it, but on the mic, dude, this guy could sell you a trash bag. Like, come on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited. He's kind of going to be like almost like SmackDown's version of The Miz, and I don't mean that in like,
No.
you know what I mean? But like, because he can talk, because he can do this, he can do that.
He can be the mouthpiece of the show. Yes.
Yes. So obviously we saw the Grayson Waller effect. He introduced AJ Styles, which I am loving this feud. I am so here for Grayson Waller versus AJ Styles. I'm very excited that that is going to be what apparently is going to be taking place after Night of Champions, which I feel like in a way they're kind of giving it away that it's going to be Seth Rollins that wins, which that's fine because that's what it should be. But yeah, I mean, you're not hyping this up between Waller and AJ Styles for it to not happen. So they talk about the world heavyweight title match, and basically Waller just continues to suck up to Styles and just be like, oh my god, I have goosebumps. Like, oh my god, like, oh my god, you're AJ Styles, you're so accomplished. But then when he says that, you know, when he starts talking about the match, he decides that he's going to announce who is going to win, and he says Seth freaking Rollins, which I was like, yes, boy. And so I am excited for this feud, but I was just a little disappointed with how it ended. I just felt like, because it abruptly ended after that and they just got into a stare down, and I was like, I kind of wanted to hear what AJ had to say.
Yeah, I would have liked to see what AJ had to say, and I would have liked that segment to go a little longer because I was enjoying it. But what that's doing is just setting him up for a feud down the road, and I'm so here for that. I'm so here for an AJ Styles Grayson Waller feud. So polar opposites, and the fact that Grayson Waller could literally do anything. I mean, his NXT days where he was just so fucking cool. I love playing the bad guy.
Yeah, I am excited, and one of the coolest things about him is that he's so young. So it's like, if he's already doing all of this right now, imagine the longevity, you know? Like, it's kind of like this is the personality that I feel like Austin Theory needs, because this is like, if this continues for Grayson Waller on SmackDown, I mean, first of all, he's already being handed AJ Styles, so they obviously that expresses how much they believe in him. But the personality that he has is what Austin Theory needs, because I think if that were how Austin Theory was, we wouldn't be sitting here being like, huh, what's Theory doing, and why is, you know?
I'll say my thoughts.
Yeah, we'll talk about him.
I'll say my thoughts on that.
But then continuing with the NXT call-ups, we got only a little snippet of Mr. Cameron Grimes, but he did have an interview backstage, and he was talking about how he beat Baron Corbin in records time. And I'm going to use this term a lot, apparently, but I am obsessed with Cameron Grimes because of that behind the scenes vlog that WWE posted on their YouTube channel.
It was awesome. It was
yes,
really good.
Of their reactions when they got called up during the draft. And I just like it's also because I'm like a little emotional, but like watching him just get so teary and just so excited and so thankful, and talking about how apparently his dad has passed away and he was his number one fan, and so he was just really excited that his dad was able to watch his first match. And I was just like, these are the moments that I live for. You know, I just love to see how happy these young wrestlers get and how excited they are, just like how much it genuinely means to them. So I'm forever obsessed with Grimes, unless he does something like completely disgusting or something. Like,
it's gonna take a lot at this point.
Yeah, he seems like the sweetest person. Like, I would pay to meet him just so I could be like, I can say that I met probably like the nicest person on the planet, because that's just how he comes off. You know what I mean?
He comes off so genuine. And learning about him through the Matt Hardy pod, they did a whole episode on him. Go check it out, Extreme Life Matt Hardy. And when they talk about him, he just loves wrestling, and he just is doing it not for the money or anything, just because of what you said of it was an option, but he's doing it because he grew up the biggest wrestling fan. His dad was in it with Matt Hardy, and like growing up in the Omega, it's nice because you don't see that a lot
Yeah.
now. You have to really kind of be like, oh, did they, and kind of guess, or wait till they make a reference, like stuff like that.
Yeah. 100%. So I'm really excited to see what they end up doing with him because it was just that little moment. But I mean, obviously, he had a pretty iconic debut beating Baron Corbin in like 10 seconds. So I'm sure he's not too upset about it. And then we also got Alba Fire and Isla Dawn versus Jobbers, which I mean, that's a huge deal because the women never get squash matches ever. And
Lacey Evans.
true, but then she like died. Like she's gone. Like
they have no definitive plans for her.
Yeah, imagine.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So we got the Scottish ladies, which I love too because they're Scottish. They got a squash match, and I'm so here for them. They're just like they bring a cool dynamic to the women's division too because they're kind of theatrical and not in the way of like Bray Wyatt where it's like larger than life, you know what I mean? Like it's or like not real. So I thought that was cool. And you know, anytime that you see the women do something that the women don't normally do, I'm here for it because it's cool to see that they got a squash match. Usually we're on here talking about the men getting squash matches, just like what is it, Indus Shear on Raw.
Shear.
So you know it's cool. So I'm excited that we got so much of the NXT guys because then we had Pretty Deadly on too, so they were just like full force front and center on SmackDown, and I was here for it because it wasn't something that we're sitting here being like, oh my god, all these guys from NXT, they just like dominated the show. It's like, no, that was the best part of the show.
It's a future,
you know,
baby.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it was something that like disappointed you. You know, like I don't feel like there's really anyone that people were sitting there being like, oh, I wish I would have saw so and so last night. You know, so I thought that was exciting. I want to get to a couple comments to see what's going on. Nathaniel says, Sarah, do you want Becky versus Trish to feud until Mania 40? No, I think it'll probably come to a head at SummerSlam, which I'm here for because SummerSlam is kind of like the WrestleMania of the summer. Or at least it used to be. I still think it's ridiculous. I think they need to have it like in LA all the time. I feel like that should be, you know, kind of how they were talking about having Backlash always in Puerto Rico. I feel like SummerSlam should just always be in LA because it just makes sense. When you think of summer, do you think of Detroit? Like, no. Like,
you're hard work and labor at the old factory, at the old mill, making them cars.
I just think it would be cool because when I think about SummerSlam, like from when I was growing up, I think about the ads, like the promos that they had, and they were always on the beach, and Brock Lesnar's like F5ing a shark, and like, you know, like or that kind of stuff.
Grilling on a front yard.
Yeah, and Cena jumping in a pool. Like that's the kind of thing that I think about with SummerSlam. So it seems like they're kind of trying to move away from that direction, but I feel like, you know, you shouldn't do that because it literally has summer in the name. So you should probably try and do it in places that feel summery. And I feel like doing it in LA, they had that 5-year stint in LA. You should just do that again. Not to mention I could go.
Why don't we pick? Well, here, all right, let's do warmer weather. Let's do Florida.
No, that as long as it's inside, because the idea of going to Florida in August is disgusting.
Yeah.
I went to SummerSlam when it was in LA in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013. Yeah, so I went to 4 out of the 5 years. And they have access out on the street, like on up behind
that's true. Yeah.
Behind whatever the new thing is called, Staples Center. It's Staples.
Oh, the crypto center.
Whatever, it's Staples. So they shut down that entire street, and then they have all different things set up on the street, so like where you can meet people and whatever. I don't know how access is done anymore. It seems like it's changed dramatically since I was going, so I don't know. But it's hot in LA, and it's hot when you're standing on black tar, but it's not humid the way that it is, you know, in Florida. Florida's just gross. Yeah. Bernard says Asuka deserves it, guys. I agree. We agree. we love us some Bianca, but we need something more interesting. I would love a Bianca heel turn. I think that would be sick, but
her and the Street Profits form a little faction.
that would be cool. Nathaniel also says, I want to see Edge versus Grayson Waller. That would be fire. And Micah says, do you think we will ever see Miz versus Waller feud or see them becoming a tag team? They're on separate shows, so that wouldn't be immediately happening. But I would almost rather see them feud because they're very similar. I feel like it would be too obvious for them to tag team. I feel like it'd be more interesting for them to go head to head. But
they're not. If anything, they may tag team if they got up on the same show. But I see them more as like fighting in the ring.
Yeah, I think that would be more entertaining. Then we've got our boy, Mr. L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
My nephew has been going around the house recently just being like, yeah, just like for no reason. He started doing that again on top of saying, yes, boy. I'm like, are you sure you're not my son? Is usually what I say to him. Because he seems more like me than he does like my sister.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's kind of, my sister jokes about it too. She was like, are you sure this is not your son? Like, are you sure you didn't birth him? And I'm
you didn't do the, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. If I feel like I did, if I did, I would remember it. So,
that's kind of memorable.
Yeah. So we had LA Knight and Rick Boogs team up.
Are you part of the Boogs crew?
No.
Toot toot.
Oh my god. Okay, so they were against the Street Profits. So we knew from the beginning they obviously had no chance going against the Street Profits, which is fine. I'm for it because I didn't want to see LA Knight and Rick Boogs become a thing. And it ended not quickly, but kind of quickly when Boogs got pinned when LA was out of the ring. So after the match, LA tries to, be all like, it's okay, man. It's whatever. And then he's just like, F you, and just like goes after him. And I was like, yes. And he calls him a loser. He's just like, you're such a loser. And he follows it up by doing a backstage interview, and he wants to make sure that everyone is very aware that he is not the one who lost the match. And when he said that he could beat the Street Profits with anybody as his partner, he meant that he could beat them. So this basically doesn't count, which I agree. And my only question from this is, okay, I'm fine with them breaking them up because I didn't want to see that as something long term. But I'm like, please do not make this into a long term feud because LA Knight deserves so much better.
So much better.
Because then he also had a dark match last night. So he had 2 matches now. Yeah, he had 2 matches last night, and the crowd is just going insane for him. They even did it during the match as he's doing his moves. He's like, LA Knight. I'm like, they're not supposed to be doing that when you're against the Street Profits. You know what I mean? It's like what we talked about with the New Day when LA went up against Xavier Woods. He was still getting cheered for, and I'm like, if you get cheered for over somebody like Xavier Woods, then you know that you're over, and they're just not taking advantage of it. So I'm like,
not at all.
Please give him an actual, because no disrespect to Rick Boogs, he's very entertaining, hilarious, and he's not bad in the ring. I don't mean that at all, but like LA Knight is just so many levels above this that he needs a legitimate feud. So I really want it to be something else other than this.
He needs to be competing for the US title. You need to have him. He's there. He's there. Like this next feud after Sheamus with Theory needs to be with LA Knight. You need to have him, those two go up against each other. You need to at least put the belt on him because at this point, I mean, he's so over and people are just demanding him online.
I know.
It's insane that they're not capitalizing on it the way they should.
Well, and it's not, we're not at that same level yet, so I'm not saying that it's exactly the same, but it has the beginnings of feeling similar to Daniel Bryan and people demanding that WWE use him and put him in these big matches and like put a belt on him. And it's kind of feeling the same way from what I'm seeing online because people are demanding. There are plenty of people who go to these shows and they're not necessarily going to SmackDown just to see him. Obviously, there's probably not many people that are buying a ticket just to see LA Knight because you might be disappointed since they're not using him. But there are enough people that are talking about the fact that he should be in bigger matches and bigger feuds, that you would think that it would be kind of piquing their interest at this point, and yet they just don't do anything. And I don't know, if I had to talk about some of Triple H's biggest mistakes thus far, this would be one of them, because I don't understand. You literally have a star right in front of you, and you just keep pegging him down towards the bottom of the totem pole, and I have no idea why. I have no idea.
I'm letting it wait. I'm letting it wait. I'm letting it just pan out.
That's your thing.
I'm letting it play out, Sarah.
Vodka is here. What is up, Vodka? He says, I missed 2016, 2017 Miz. That was peak Miz.
It was actually
one of the eras of peak Miz. Because I would also say him and Alex Riley were like peak. Like, I was obsessed with Alex Riley.
Say it to my face.
I loved him. I even bought like a school jacket that looked like his, and it had an A on it. And so when we met him, we wore them. Oh my God, he loved it. And Micah asks,
Talking Smack.
I do not, Micah. No, I'm an aunt. I am not a mom. Talking Smack. What? Oh, Miz on Talking Smack. Yeah.
That was like.
And Daniel Bryan, they would just like go off the rails. I'm like, you guys are so lucky this is not on like television every week, because sometimes they couldn't control what they were saying at all. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it was good. That was that whole thing. Yeah.
But then the last little bit, you kind of already alluded to it a little bit, was Austin Theory versus Sheamus. That appears to be the next thing, which I am here for, because I want Austin Theory, if he's going to be the US champ, to have a better feeling tenure as a US champion, because I kind of feel bad. You know, I feel like he has all the tools in his arsenal and it's just not clicking. And it just kind of bums me out to see, because, you know, he and I grew up both Cena fans. So I have a soft spot a little bit for Austin Theory. So he did come out, and I do love his new entrance. I think it's so much better with the spotlight and the camera coming around. I think it's so much better. I still hate his song, but, you know, that's... I hate it. I hate it. Oh, damn. Okay. So he comes out to hype himself up, talking about how everybody knows who he is, and says that he was targeted last week during the World Heavyweight Championship tournament by two former champions, which were Sheamus and
Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley. And he said that he should be the one that is in the finals match against Seth freaking Rollins. Says he doesn't understand why Sheamus has a problem with him. He knows why Bobby does, because Bobby followed him to SmackDown, which I think is hilarious. But Bobby was just like, make sure I go to the same show as Austin Theory. That twerp. So he says he doesn't understand why Sheamus has a problem with him, because they have a lot in common. Like, they have both beaten up John Cena, except Sheamus did it when he was like 13. And I was like, this is why I'm saying, like, he has these little moments that are just so funny. Like when he was saying that,
so good in the mic. Like now he's like, he's evolving on the mic and becoming more comfortable. I mean, the fact that he was when the crowd said what, he goes, yeah, get this, what? Like he interacted right back. Like, it's there. It's there.
Well, because that moment reminded me of when he took that shot at Lashley, being like, oh, if you're so good at like getting matches, then, you know, where was your match at? Wasn't it him that said that? Where was your match at?
I'm pretty sure,
at Mania. But then also with the Cena thing, being like, I'm not going anywhere, like that bald spot on the back of your head. Like, yes. And I love Cena, but I just thought that was hilarious. After listening to Mr. Austin Theory go on and on and on, Sheamus comes out and just hits him with a bro kick, and that's basically it. So it looks like that is what is going to be happening. And I actually like this, but I just still feel like they need to make sure that if Theory is going to keep the title, that they need to have him win legitimately and not just like have him resort to the typical heel, you know, way of things that they usually have when they have him cheat or they have him help, they have something, whatever. I feel like he's due for a legitimate win, because you can kind of pick apart why he's won these other matches. It was either because it was a triple threat and you know, he had the upper hand at one point, or he took advantage of a moment because someone else did something else, you know. So I'm interested in this feud, whether or not it's prolonged or if it is just like a one-off for Night of Champions. I don't know, but I'm interested.
You need you need to have him have at least 3 or 4 good wins, and he hasn't had them like that. And Sheamus would definitely be one that is like an establishing win, clean win. Be like, all right, he's over now. He's that guy. And then have him get another couple feuds in there, then go after with LA Knight, and then have him drop the title with LA Knight.
Yes, I know. Well, because then people are still talking about LA Knight winning Money in the Bank, but that's a conversation for another day because I feel like there's quite a few people that can be in that conversation right now. So, and then before we end it, we have Bernard saying, "I want to be on here talking wrestling with you guys one day." I know. I feel like we need to have some sort of show where a couple people have been asking us to come on and talk wrestling.
They want to hang with the shit.
I know.
Give the peeps always has an open door policy here in the yard of streams. Come on.
Yeah, we'll have to think about or try to think about how we can go about that. Maybe I don't know, we can just put together something where maybe on like a random Friday or something we can just do it or whatever. We'll think of something because there's like a couple of you guys
or something.
Yeah, you guys have asked us. So I would hate to just keep being like, sure, maybe, and then never doing it. Vodka also says, if you guys could bring back one NXT alum, who would you pick? To come back, like to be in NXT?
Yeah, like because my mind goes to one man and one man only.
Who?
Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah.
I want him. He was my favorite NXT person. Him or Samoa Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Samoa Joe is
and I'm not trying to get I don't want to get into the controversy if we're just talking about on like what we saw in ring and stuff. Okay. I was really intrigued by the Velveteen Dream. I really wanted to see how that developed because we're talking about people thinking Pretty Deadly was flamboyant. Velveteen Dream, so when he was on Tough Enough, I really liked Patrick too. So it's just unfortunate. Cool. Yeah, no, I thought the Velveteen Dream was cool. The whole idea of it was really cool. It's just unfortunate, obviously, how things ended up. But if we were just talking about that, then I think he would be cool. But yeah, I think my first thought would be Adam Cole. But it's weird because I would rather see Adam Cole he said, okay, so Vodka says for a main roster push. Yeah. I would rather see Adam Cole with a Triple H creative because if we're talking about when he was supposed to come up and get a main roster push, I wouldn't want to see it then because that Vince wasn't going to treat him the right way because he wasn't one of the bigger guys. He wasn't the prototypical Vince loved wrestler. So I'd rather see that now. So if we could talk about that now, then sure.
Tommaso Ciampa.
I know. I'm hoping that he's coming back soon too. I want to see the family. Oh my
God, he's so good. That'd be incredible.
Well, we're getting hints of it, so it looks like it's in the works.
No one will survive.
But that was SmackDown.
It was a good SmackDown. It set the pace.
I'm excited for SmackDown again.
Well, we got the KO show.
KO
show too.
Okay, well, I'm excited because Pretty Deadly and LA Knight. Okay. And Grayson Waller and Cameron Grimes.
Grayson Waller.
All I needed from SmackDown was NXT call-ups. And
yeah, look at you're back in the blue brand, baby.
Well, I'm just excited for both now. How about we say that?
All right, we'll go with that.
Because I got favorites on Raw too. Let's be real.
Oh, we have a ton of favorites on Raw.
Oh yeah.
And what we do with our favorites on Raw? We talk about them on the Raw Rewind on your YouTube channel, Sarah, for anyone who's watching on our tweeters. Sarah's YouTube channel, go check it out. It has old streams, and if you don't have the 58 minutes and 51 seconds, 52 now, to watch us in our entirety, Sarah cuts the clips for you. All right, we got the clips for you right in the YouTube channel. You want to hear us talk about Pretty Deadly but not talk about Austin Theory? Well, we can do that for you. So go subscribe, Sarah Marshall XO on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and even maybe a push notification to know when we go live as well. And then to know when we go live, you got to follow us on Twitter at Pat_Pitts and at SMarchXO. All right. And then Instagram at Pitsy35 and at SMarchX. No, SMarch_.
Yes.
There we go. Got it. Boom. And then subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Pitts and Sarah's Wrestling Show. We're looking on a name change. We would like, some inspiration. We'd like to get a definitive name that's not so generic, because Sarah, does anything about me scream generic?
Does anything about me scream generic?
No.
Don't answer that. Okay, for a second, the fact that you took a pause, I was like, oh God, never mind.
Well, it's for dramatic effect, baby. Come on. You gotta entice them a little bit.
It works for right now because trying to come up with a unique name is really difficult. Everyone and their mom has a podcast, so like every name is taken at this point.
It is absolutely. So in the meantime, will you guys think of a show name for us? Go follow all those channels. Have a great night. God bless. Remember that you can do it. All you gotta do is try. We will see you next time. We'll see you on Tuesday for the Raw Rewind.